Welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast, where every week we talk about things like nutrition, training,
how to live a healthy and active lifestyle with your little ones, peaceful parenting, education,
and of course, mindset.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Keto Counterculture, at Fat Fueled Mom, and at Fat Fueled Kids, and search for Fat Fueled Family on YouTube.
To stay up to date with everything we're doing, sign up with your email at www.fatfueled.family and check out our blog for workouts, meal ideas, and all the other cool stuff we love to talk about.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
Welcome to the Fat Fuel Family Podcast. I am Danny Vega, and I am joined by my very busy, very hungry wife, who's currently going to town on the middle of an artichoke. She's poor thing hasn't had a chance to eat today. But how are you, my love?
I'm doing good. Now that I have my artichoke. No, I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's by the time this comes out, it will be probably mid-January. So beginning of a new year, and
we're doing great. We're killing it.
We're crushing it in 2019.
We're already. It hasn't even started, and we're crushing it
in our minds. We're super excited today because we love to have conversations with real people going through real situations, and we want this episode to be about, especially how when you're confronted with some off the wall news, how to deal with it. Our guest today is a ketogenic diet advocate. She's a brain tumor parent. She's a real food advocate. Go real food. And she lives a low carb, high fat lifestyle with her family. And she's from Dallas, Texas. And her Instagram account is a beacon of positivity and light. And we can't wait for you all to hear her story. Please welcome Adrianna Stephenson. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, guys. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you on. So obviously I want to dive right in. We always begin when we have someone on. We begin by asking, what is the most critical problem you're currently trying to solve?
Sure. So the most critical problem I'm trying to solve has to do with my oldest son, Parker. He just turned 4 years old. He is a brain tumor survivor. And all of my thought and energy goes into how can we prevent tumor recurrence? He finished 18 months of chemotherapy in April of this past year. He has had major brain surgery. He is a strict keto kid. And the thing is that the ketogenic diet was one of the best adjunct therapies we could do for him while he was on treatment. And now that he's out of treatment, to me, it is the best thing that we can do to help prevent that tumor from coming back. Of course, nothing is foolproof. And we just continue to pray every day that we're doing the right thing for him and by him. But, I just want to give him the fullest life possible, the best health possible. And really, that's my driving force in life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, we all live for our kids, and when it's never as obvious as when they go through struggle, how quickly, we can just put everything else aside and make them the priority. And, obviously it's awesome that you're doing that. And it's awesome that you're obviously the right mind frame, of course, prepared for anything that can come, but doing the right thing every single day. Of course, that begs the next question is, how did you find out about Parker's tumor? And I wanted to know, how was it just one? And
Sure.
what led you to the ketogenic diet? Were you guys keto before, or this was part of the journey?
Sure. So the thing is, I have been on a real food quest for probably, 7 or 8 years now. My kind of backstory, my dad passed away 8 years ago, really suddenly. He was only 58. He had an undiagnosed congenital heart defect that he didn't know about, and he literally died at work. And I was incredibly close to my dad, and I was 29 years old, and it was absolutely soul shattering for me. And he and I was really active as a kid. I was a competitive swimmer, but definitely had weight creeping on in my 20s. My dad also struggled with his weight. And after he died, I just kind of fell into this deep depression, ended up gaining a lot of weight. And then coming out of that, Gosh, I don't even remember where it was, but I first heard of the paleo diet back when that was a brand
Oh,
new
yeah.
buzzword. Yeah. And I just
Yeah.
threw myself into this research. I read Rob Wolf's book, and all of a sudden it's like my eyes were opened to all the lies we've been told about food, all of the kind of misconceptions we had about food growing up. And the thing is, I was a vegetarian until I was 8. My mom was like this hippie earth, crunchy granola mom. But we ate a ton of carbs. And I wonder, gosh, why do we have metabolic issues? Well, we stuffed ourselves full of carbs all those years, you know? And so I kind of got into the whole paleo world, and, you know, much to my husband's dismay, like threw everything out in our house, you know, started from scratch with food. And this is before we had kids, and just kind of started on this real food, ancestral health kind of quest. And I actually, we had wanted to have a baby for quite some time, and I ended up doing a Whole30. I don't know if you guys know what Whole30 is. And January of 2014, and I am personality-wise a total rebel, which means that I have a really hard time convincing myself to do something, even when I know I really want to do it.
Oh my gosh, that's Maura. You're just like
Maura.
Maura.
I could never do Whole30. I hate the rules. It's like I would eat better not doing Whole30.
Yes. So the thing is that totally. But what I also have learned about rebels and learned about myself is that if you can tap into your authentic self, what drives your authentic self, you can do anything. And for me, it was actually the conversation to myself of, you hate rules. You say that you can't do this. Prove to yourself that you can do something for 30 days. And that's how I've done it. And I've only done one perfect Whole30. I've had several other kind of failed attempts along the way. But that first time was so important for me to do it. And it was so life-changing. And I actually got pregnant with Parker the very next month after a year. And that just told me, oh my gosh, food is so healing. Like, this is what my body needed. And had a really, pretty easy pregnancy with him. I carried him to 41 weeks. Did end up in an emergency C-section type of situation. But other than that, I did everything right. I mean, he was breastfed. His first food was organic avocado. I mean, I did everything, according to what I thought was best for him. And the thing was, he was still diagnosed with a brain tumor. And that was a big part of my healing, of letting go of the guilt you have, because you think, oh my God, I've done something. I stood in front of a microwave. I smelled a chemical, it's just, you think of all these things. And in fact, none of those things caused it. And so, anyways, getting back to Parker's story, he met every developmental milestone earlier on time. I mean, I actually remember he crawled on his 6-month birthday, and just the most beautiful little boy. And gosh, about 14, 15 months, I noticed that he had left hand dominance. Like, he put everything in his left hand with toys. And my husband is left-handed and was like, oh, he's going to be a lefty. And there's something that just instinct was like, that's not right. Something really bothers me.
Wow.
And it got worse. And gosh, about 17, 18 months, my mom noticed it. She's a retired special ed teacher. And we noticed he had started fisting his right hand. And of course, like, alarm bells went off, and we're like, oh my God, what's going on? Is he autistic? We're thinking of all these things, but he didn't have any other signs apart from this physical manifestation. He was very wobbly, but again, he was a toddler. So nobody seemed to think anything was wrong. But about 18 months, I went to my pediatrician because it really bothered me. I noticed that he couldn't grab a bath toy, like with water or any sort of resistance, with his right hand. And our pediatrician looked at him, and I love him because he's very old school, and he is not a coddling type of doctor, which is great because I want the facts. I don't give me.
Love that.
And he's like, it's abnormal. It's all I can tell you. You should go see a neurologist. And so, okay, a little nervous. We go to see a neurologist, gives Parker an assessment, and says, gosh, well, he looks great, but that right hand, that is abnormal, because she tried even blowing bubbles and having him pop them with his right pointer finger. And you could tell that he was really struggling to get that pointer finger to flex out. And she said, well, I think we should order an MRI of the brain and the top of the spine. just to rule out anything. But we literally left thinking it could be something as simple as a pinched nerve. I mean, really not even on our radar at all. And I think back now, before that first MRI, he had to have sedation, and I was so worried about that sedation. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, we've dealt with so many other interventions.
I know, right?
It's like nothing now. And I knew that something was up because the MRI, after about an hour, we had to sign consent forms for contrast dye, which my just hackles went up. And I thought, okay, great. That means they, kind of want to put a highlighter in there. They want to kind of look around at something in particular. So that first MRI lasted 2.5 hours sedated, if you can imagine that. And he was only 19 months old. And we went home. Of course, they don't tell you anything at the facility, right? They say, oh, your neurologist will call you in about 2 days. We get home. We've been home for about 15 minutes. Parker is laying down with my mom to rest. I'm putting clothes away in his nursery, and the phone rings, and it's our neurologist. And this is like that line in the sand, right? The moment where our life is completely different on the other side of it. And she told me, well, I know why Parker has difficulty with his right hand. They found a very large brain tumor. And it's just, I called my husband in, I put her on speakerphone, and we had no idea. I mean, it just completely floored us. Never in a million years did we think this. It was golf ball size, if you can imagine, in a 19-month-old brain. Wow. It was amazing that actually that was the only outward symptom was his hand. And the thing is, he wasn't vomiting in the morning. He wasn't lethargic. He didn't have all these other kind of classic symptoms. He just had this weird thing with his hand. And that just tells me it was such a God thing. And also just trust your instincts, Mom. You know what I mean? Just absolutely your intuition really matters when it comes to your kids. And so we knew she wasn't quite sure, but it was going into a weekend as well, which made it really hard because we didn't know what the next step was. We were thinking, oh my God, do we take him to the emergency room? Is this immediate surgery? What's happening? Yeah. And we ended up working with a really phenomenal pediatric neurosurgeon here in Dallas. And he actually ended his vacation early to come meet with us because we hadn't seen the MRI images yet. And I remember going into that appointment, this is 4 or 5 days later, and thinking, am I going to know what I'm looking at? And oh my gosh, we got into the room and he had it up on the monitor, and it is like a take your breath away image. It's this giant white, very well circumcised tumor. But the problem is it was in the middle of the brain. So his was in like near the hypothalamus, which is really in the center of your brain, very close to your pituitary gland, very close to the fourth ventricle, and very close to your optic chiasm, right? So we were lucky. We didn't know if he had vision damage or anything like that yet. Luckily, no hydrocephalus, which is also a huge concern with small kids and brain tumors, right? There's no space for that tumor to go, right? So everything kind of gets pushed out.
So hydrocephalus, can you explain for those who don't know what that is?
Sure. So hydrocephalus is actually swelling on the brain with extra fluid. So sometimes you'll see children that have almost their heads are enlarged, or you see a prominent forehead, things like that. In those cases, those kids need shunts, and shunts are permanent, basically drains in your brain that drain down, and now they actually drain down into their stomach. And the thing about a shunt is it's a life-changing thing because they have to have it for life, right? It's once you put it in, you get new ones, but it's not something that you fix it and then remove it. So we were incredibly thankful that we caught it soon enough that he didn't have any of those other issues yet. And our neurosurgeon talked to us about what our options were, and we knew that we had to debulk the tumor as soon as possible. And I mean, that's an incredibly terrifying thing to think of. And he talked about a couple different choices for us. And ultimately, this is amazing. I mean, this is when, as much as I truly believe in ancestral health and whole body wellness, I am so thankful for Western medicine and pediatric neurosurgeons because, my God, they are the miracle workers.
They are miracle workers.
Yeah, and, we experienced that just with our boy, and it was just plastic surgery for his ear that was torn off.
Yeah, but he had
getting
to see
hit by a truck.
He had to see the neurosurgeon just because he had to have a neck brace because he did have some ligaments ligaments torn in his cervical spine. And
Scary.
I mean, seriously, they are just,
their attention to detail is way more
there's a
than
reason
any other.
those people are just special.
Absolutely. And we have a really amazing surgeon who has wonderful bedside manner too, which I really appreciated. So anyways, about 2 weeks later, Parker was in for surgery. It was 8 hours. And we knew that debulking the whole tumor was not an option because of the location. If it had been in a different part of the brain, there's a chance that you can actually remove the whole thing. But his location, that wasn't a choice. And so actually our neurosurgeon went in through the top of the head, in between the two lobes of the brain. Amazing. Like didn't touch gray.
Good.
Like I know, like didn't touch gray matter. Like how is that even possible?
Wow.
And basically scooped the tumor out from the inside out. Almost, I like to, it's kind of weird, but like a watermelon, right? So like almost like leaving the rind or the shell and scooping the inside out. And
just pushing everything out of the way, really.
Right.
That's all he did.
Exactly. Just pushing it out of the way to get to that tumor. He was able to remove about 70% of it. And Parker only spent 4 days in the hospital, which is crazy.
Wow.
I mean, he wanted us to get home because, you know, you don't want to be in a hospital, right? That's where you get sick and you can contract things. And he's like, he's healing so well, get home. We had that whole fall to kind of find our bearings again. And we knew that it probably wasn't going to be a permanent solution, but we had no idea what was going to happen. As I like to say, there's no crystal ball, right? And in December of 2016, at his follow-up MRI, unfortunately, the tumor had started to grow back. And at that point, our surgeon was not willing to go back in to risk any damage. And so our only choice was chemotherapy.
Let me ask you something real quick with this, because maybe they would have told you, but the way I understand it is if surgery is the approach that they take, like it's considered, you know, it's only considered successful if it's like 90 something %. Am I right in that?
Correct. I mean, he was thrilled with how much he got out, actually, but
because of the size of it.
Because of the size of it, because at that point he was more concerned with not with removing the whole thing because he knew that wasn't going to be an option, but trying to protect the healthy brain that was there, right, and try to take the pressure off of it, and especially take the pressure off the ventricles, which is how you can get a stroke and things like that, right? So, it was, you know, we kind of knew it would grow back, but still to get that news was just like, damn, you know, I just couldn't believe that. And radiation was not an option. He was way too young, and thank God, because, you know, radiating growing brains, there's just a myriad of issues that come with that. Yeah. So we knew we were going in for chemo, and I had to really wrap my mind around that because that just flew in the face of everything that I wanted for my child. Now I'm going to pump toxic chemicals into his body, you know, but at the same time, like, you know, we had to give him a shot at life too. And hard, no easy decisions, right? It's like one hard decision or another hard decision. And so he started chemo December of 2016. And actually, kind of funny, I had already told my husband, he was still in the hospital, and I said, listen, I'm quitting my job because I can't be the advocate that Parker needs and work while he does 18 months of chemo. I was like, I'll deliver groceries, I'll do whatever. I can't do that. So I'd already made the decision to quit my job. And then the very next day, I found out we were expecting our second son. Oh my God. It was a Christmas to remember. And so it actually ended up working out really well, because I was home. And so I was pregnant with Drew that first, 9 months of Parker's chemo journey. And, so anyways, getting kind of back to how the keto diet fits in, he was not like a keto baby or anything. I mean, we really ate probably unprocessed whole foods, but he ate plenty of Dave's Killer bread and butter and other things like that because I was busy working, and it seemed like it was more balanced. And the thing is, when he was first diagnosed, my brain, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, we have to get rid of all sugar. And the thing is, I was discouraged from doing that. And at that time, we were calling in favors to anybody that we knew. One of my best friends from college is a pediatric endocrinologist, and she got me in touch with a friend who was an oncologist. And I talked to this lady on the phone who I don't know very well. And she was like, I said, my gosh, my first thought is, oh, we have to get rid of the sugar. And just the fear that she instilled in me, and didn't mean to, but just you talk about what, doctors really don't know a whole lot about nutrition, right? They take like one nutrition class, and she was like, well, don't do anything to like, disrupt the pattern right now, and just put all of this fear into me about changing his diet. And honestly, at that point, I was like, well, whatever. I can't even think about food. We're just hoping he survives surgery at this point, And so, but I never really let go of of that idea. And in, I guess, February, so about 3 months after he started chemo, I finally, and it's about 6 months after he was diagnosed, I finally felt ready to tackle diet, because I felt like I had a handle on things. Like, we knew he was going to live. I mean, that's really basic, but it's true. Like, we knew he was going to live. I knew that we had to do something to help keep his body as healthy as possible while we're pumping toxic chemicals into it. And I revisited the whole no sugar thing. And one of the ways, one of the kind of key pieces to this was I was part of this Facebook group for parents who have kids with this specific type of tumor that Parker had. And this one mom shared her story, and her daughter had the same exact, this is crazy, same exact type of tumor as Parker, same location, same chemotherapy protocol. And she had just finished a year of it, but she'd done a strict ketogenic diet and was having amazing success. And it was just like the light that I needed at the end of the tunnel. And I was like, I knew it. And so I messaged her, and she ended up calling me, and we've become really good friends. But it was really through another parent that I learned about this, because, one of the things going into chemo too, I should have said this part, our oncologist told us there was basically one of three options was going to happen. Number one, the chemo drugs wouldn't work. In a third of the cases, the chemo drugs do not work. In a third of the cases, the chemo drugs keep things stable with no shrinkage and no growth, but they can kind of maintain status quo. And only 1/3 actually respond to the chemotherapy. So we went into this thinking we have a 1/3 chance that this is going to work. We hope for stability. Shrinking seems like that's a really small percentage. And so this mom, same chemotherapy protocol, she did the keto diet, and their tumor was almost gone. And I just knew there was something to it. And so she actually got me in touch with this amazing nonprofit. I don't know if you guys know it, called the Max Love Project in Southern California. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Heard the name. Yeah, I think I may have heard the
name. Can you explain it a little bit? Because I've definitely.
Absolutely. So the Max Love Project it's a nonprofit started by a husband and wife team whose son is a brain tumor survivor, and they are advocates for the keto diet for cancer kids, but they also look at kind of whole child wellness too, right? So they're looking at, is your kid getting the sleep that they need? Do they have the social interaction that they need? All of these different factors to being really a healthy kid, a healthy human, right? And they know that childhood cancer survivors are at risk for long-term health issues and depression and all of these other issues. So they really help parents, kind of empower parents to make choices at home that can help support their kids. And so that Justin, the guy that,
that's awesome.
It's awesome. And he has like a PhD in public health. And so everything that he gives to parents is all evidence-based. And I really appreciated that. And they basically supplied me with an annotated bibliography of clinical studies showing the efficacy of the ketogenic diet. And I literally handed this packet to our oncologist and was like, I don't need I know. I kind of waited till we have a group approach. And I knew one of the oncologists was going to be really resistant, and another one would be very open. And I did wait to talk to the one that I knew would be more open to it. But I basically said, not asking for permission, right? But this is what we're doing. This is why I just felt like you needed to know, just because with blood work and other things like that. And I didn't want to be secretive about it, but I also didn't ask for permission. permission. And he took it, and actually the next week was really excited because he'd read through things, and he's been a huge advocate for us doing this along the way. So I do encourage people to talk to their doctors too, just because, it's kind of fear mongering. And the thing is, you are in the driver's seat. Like, do not be in the passenger seat to your child's diagnosis, your diagnosis. You're the one who's in charge. And that can be really intimidating too. But that's kind of how we started on keto. I did work with a dietitian at the very beginning because I don't know. I mean, there's just so much fear about what you feed your kids. And now that I know about everything, I think, well, what's to fear? You're feeding them whole, nutritious foods, right? It can only help. So
it's so funny you say that. I feel like the fear is only there when you mention something like keto or paleo, but the fear is not there when kids are eating McDonald's every day. I don't honestly see
exactly.
So
exactly.
I'm like, I don't see fear of Cheetos ever, really.
Ever. And like in the fusion area of the oncology clinic for kids, what do they have for them? Apple juice, graham crackers. I mean, I'm like, that's just, to me, that's poison right along there with the chemotherapy, and we just broke the rules.
Well,
and didn't feed them any of that stuff.
When they are in, they're getting this chemo and of course radiation as well, there's muscle wasting, there's all these bad benefits or all these bad, effects. And, then you're feeding them sugar on top of it. So their bodies are not able to handle it. It just blows my mind how there's this disconnect between the policy of the hospital, and what they're feeding people and, the day-to-day practice. They seem to think that there's this, that they're not related.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things too. I had somebody, I don't know, kind of give me a snarky comment and was like, well, what kind of childhood is that if they can't have, X, Y, and Z foods? And I was like, excuse me, I'm giving him a chance at childhood. Don't tell me that you need all that crap to be a kid. No, you need your childhood. You need to be able to go out and play. And, it's amazing. He actually did not lose all of his hair during chemo.
Wow. Because he had that protein.
He had protein and fat. And people are like, well, what did you feed him? And that's like the other thing about just the real food component. I mean, sure, we use Lily's chocolates and some other things like that on occasion. But I'll tell you, the first 6 months, he ate the same things over and over again because, well, also, chemo changes your taste buds. There are some days all he would eat was scrambled eggs. And I'm not joking, like 6 or 7 pastured eggs in grass-fed butter, hamburger patties, avocado, cream cheese pancakes. Man, I became an expert at cream cheese pancakes because it's something that he could tolerate. And honestly, he ate the same things on repeat over and over and over again. And that just, I don't know, it gave me such a sense of control in an otherwise totally impossible situation to deal with.
It's so funny how that comment is so weird to me, honestly. Again, something that's very strange. And it's like I live in this twilight zone where, oh, you're not letting your kid be a kid. I'm like, no, actually I am. And I can't even tell you how many children I see day to day that cannot be children because they are obese. They are hyperactive. I mean, a perfect example is like I volunteer at my son's homeschool co-op and we're there for lunch. So this is like 12 noon lunch. This isn't snack time. This is lunchtime. And what these children pull out of their quote unquote lunchbox is, to me, a horror movie, to be honest. It's pure like candy. It's candy, juice, literal candy, juice, gummies, and like chips. And then the worst part is that then you're like, calm down, children, settle down. And I know that they can't.
I'm like,
I feel like such a hypocrite. Exactly. I'm like, I feel like such a hypocrite, but calm down.
No, this past Halloween, I did it. I did not hand out candy this year. And I ordered a bunch of just really fun things like glow necklaces and all kinds of stuff. And my husband was sure we were going to be like ostracized or TP'd. And I was like, we are not. And you know what? We weren't. And people thought it was so cool. And you know what? Like, kids don't need candy to be kids.
They don't need it.
And
no way.
I just, so anyways, that's kind of our very long story of how we got into keto. I will say a couple other things is that I did make the decision about, 6 weeks after we started him on it, that it was going to be a whole family affair because, and my mom lives with us, and she's a recovering carbaholic.
Wow, good for her. That's always hard.
Carbs, and it's very hard for her, and she's not perfect. But the thing is that I didn't want him. He already had enough hard things to deal with. I did not want him to feel ostracized or singled out. And I was like, you know what? We all have some weight to lose. We all need to be healthier. And you know what? We're just going to make this a family affair. And that to me has been like one of the most important things that we've done, because he doesn't feel like he does something different than everybody. Right. So
that's so important.
So that's been good. And we keep him keto. Actually, it's amazing just how metabolically flexible he is now, because he can eat some fruit. He can eat sweet potatoes on occasion, and he stays in ketosis. I mean, it's amazing. It's like we trained his body so young that he is very receptive to it. And actually, if anything, I have to make sure that he gets enough calories in, because I'll notice, because kids are such good self-regulators, you know. I think we force kids to eat sometimes, but he'll have some days where he just eats a ton, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this kid is an empty pit. And then the next day, it's almost like he knows to intermittent fast. It's amazing. Like he just eats a lot less and is more active. But we actually have to watch about his blood sugar getting too low, because he is just, you know, so that's one of the things we do still monitor blood and ketones and that sort of thing. Probably, I don't know, every 3 or 4 days now. I used to do it twice a day at the beginning, just because I was curious too, and wanted to make sure we were doing everything right by him. So
that's so true. And that's why it's like we're doing what you're doing for him. It's gonna be with him forever. Like it's so true. They self-regulate, and we even have to I have to remind Danny sometimes. He's like, oh, you know, you have to eat your dinner or whatever. And then I'm like, look, if you actually, we have to remember, like, these are small children. They don't weigh 220 pounds like Danny. I'm like, Danny, he doesn't need to eat as much protein as you. He had this and this and this. Let's actually add it up. And we add it up, and it's like double protein of his in weight, double body weight. I'm like, he's good. He doesn't, his body is telling him. Yeah. And we need, when our kids are healthy, we can trust their bodies to regulate.
Well, you know what? So. It's so funny. So our youngest son, Drew, he's 16 months old now. He never did any of the more kind of complex carbs that Parker did, because we've just kind of been low carb. And it's amazing. He is such a baby carnivore. I'm not joking. For his first birthday, we got him ribs. Like, we have really good barbecue here in Texas.
That's so good.
He's so just good. Like baby gnawing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this is the food that kids need, right? So it's just been very funny to see that too.
It's so awesome that you guys did that. So before we go, I want to go into a little bit your, kind of the healthcare part of it, because we spoke a little bit offline, kind of the challenges you've had. But what about, for you and your husband, did you guys see any health benefits or beyond like the weight loss and stuff?
Absolutely. So I'm still, I guess, on my journey too. A lot of it has to do with stress management for me as well. That's part of my ongoing mental health. But I've dropped about 40 pounds in the last 2 years, which is great. I have about another 40 to go. Slow and steady. I did have a little bit of a health setback for myself. I had my gallbladder removed, unfortunately. And
that'll make it difficult.
That makes it difficult. And the thing is that I know that it was from years of abusing my body with carbs, to be honest, and just some other kind of genetic factors that I had going against me. So that was a little bit of a setback, but I've, kind of gotten back on track. Number one for me, like, mental clarity is amazing. When I eat right, I feel so good. I need less coffee. I'll tell you, my husband, when I first started him on paleo, 7 or 8 years ago, it's amazing. He, for the first time, because he's always struggled with his weight, just by removing like bread and pasta and those sorts of things, he didn't yo-yo with his weight anymore. He still has weight to lose, but he can maintain and slow and steady. And for him, that was like life-changing, because he never knew why. I mean, he is the kind of guy that can yo-yo between like 20 pounds in a month, just way up and down. Yeah. And he's a big guy, and he played football, and it was always really frustrating for him. And just by like simple changes for him made a huge difference. And so he and I are both working on getting more active as well. That's a big part of it for us, trying to work that into our lives. But definitely health benefits for us. I will tell you, my mom has had huge health benefits. She has lost about 25 pounds or so, but she is a type 2 diabetic and was able to have she halved her medication.
Nice.
Unbelievable.
That's so huge.
I mean,
that's awesome.
Huge.
What was it? Are you talking about insulin or not insulin? Just like,
like metformin, and there was some other
metformin. Yeah, that's good.
Too.
Yeah, those two blood sugar control, because there's metformin and then there's that newer one, right?
Right. So no, it was metformin. She was able to have it, and she may be able to get rid of it altogether. I mean, because I'm relentless though. Like make her test her blood and do everything like that.
Yeah.
But she's really and she's going to be 75 soon. So I mean, like she is proof that you can make changes after your 70s and feel a lot better too. And for her, it also has to do with arthritis. So it's also inflammation in your joints and things like that. She's noticed a huge improvement. So it's good for all of us. I mean, we started out just for Parker, but really it was the wake up call that we all really needed too. Because the thing is, the information was there. I knew what to do, but just like so many people, you think I'm too busy or I have all these other stressors. Well, let me tell you, you don't know what stressors are till you have a child diagnosed with cancer. It puts everything else into perspective.
I can't even imagine. Oh, I'm sure.
It just puts everything else into perspective. And now when I think about it, it's just like, I just don't sweat the small stuff. And I don't think diet's that big of, diet is a big deal. What I mean by that is, I just don't think it's a big deal not to eat bread. Like, I don't feel deprived. I feel great. Deal. Yeah. It's just like,
we're not missing out.
Let's stop, really what you're dealing with is you're dealing with emotional connections to things, right? So that's the hard work that you need to do, right? The actual impulse control to not put that cookie in your mouth, that's important too. But you got to think, why do you want to do that? What is the emotional tie to that? What are the traditions that are, especially with so many cultures, traditions and food all go together, right? And so that's what you're missing out on. It's not just that instant gratification. So I don't know, that's been a lot of important work for me, because for us, it's not a quick fix. It is truly our lifestyle, and it will be Parker's lifestyle. And so I guess it's kind of my other critical problem I'm trying to solve is, as he gets older and is more and more aware, how do we build this narrative and this lifestyle in a way that it's enriching for him too, and for Drew, where we're going against the grain by eating this way, but
not eating grains.
Not eating grains, exactly.
Literally against the grain.
Literally not eating grains. And how do we, how do I pass on some of those great traditions that I grew up with and still honor those, but make it not really about the sugar too? I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, you make such a good point with the traditions, because it's so important. Like we do have, no matter how you look at it, we have emotional connections with food, but a lot of it is because of the experience, like you remember the exact smell of that pie or whatever it is, and what that accompanied that experience. But there's with fat, man, when the fat is high, you can have so many options. And I think one of the things that I'm sure you inherently do, and we always tell people to do, is to focus on what you're getting out of it, not what you're missing out on, because it goes into every aspect of life. It's that, having
it's all
that
about your perspective. It's not like, what am I missing? What am I gaining? You know?
Well, and the thing is that I still teach him to cook in the kitchen. Like, my mom taught me to cook, and I have to remember that when I share recipes and stuff like that, because I don't really follow recipes because I know how to cook, right? But that's the thing, is that I want to teach him to do that. It doesn't really, whatever type of diet you prescribe, you subscribe to, the thing is that you have to know basic cooking techniques regardless, right? And so the thing is that we've worked, he really wants to help out in the kitchen. So we have one of those learning towers. And the thing is, we make pizzas on Friday night. They're fathead pizzas, but he thinks they're delicious, and they are delicious. I mean, you can't eat that much cheese and not think that it's good, But
it's so good.
So good. But we try to have a lot of fun, and but it's definitely it's different when he was so young, when he was diagnosed, and now he's 4 and he's doing all of this talking, and it's just you guys know, you've got 2 little boys. There's new challenges at every single stage, right? Yeah. And we've kind of mastered the toddlerhood, preschool years, and now I'm kind of getting into little boy years, and it's a different set of challenges.
5
but
is so
exciting
good.
too.
5 years old.
You're gonna love 5.
You're gonna love
5 is our favorite.
5 is my fave. 5
Yeah.
is so
I
good.
can't
Dean's getting
wait.
there. That's why he's getting so good.
Yeah.
Because he's like 4.5 right now.
But then,
I'm
then like, it's
there.
funny because then like 6 and 7, it goes backwards the other way. But then it's
because
like,
they get like more emotional or something. It's like hormone surges. And I'm like, dude, it's happening.
We have our friend, her daughter is the same. Like they're getting emotional like over little things. And it's just like,
but it's like the process, you know, you have to just be adapt. You have to, it's like, but it's always, that's how it is. Like as soon as I feel like I mastered a stage, it's like over.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Time to adapt.
No, I am ready to get rid of the diaper stage, though. We're still
unsure.
That, and I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that to be done. But
I know.
But
that's
one
hard.
other thing I was going to say too, just I didn't really talk about. Parker does have some kind of long-term issues that from having that tumor, and I was going to mention this too. He has a speech delay. It's expressive language, right? So he's been very slow to talk, but he also has right-sided weakness. So that initial weakness we saw on his right side is still there. It's gotten better, but it's fine motor loss in the right hand. It's foot drop on the right side. It almost manifests like he's had a stroke on that side, right? It's not super noticeable, but you spend 15, 20 minutes with him, you will notice it. So he is in speech, OT, and PT. Because luckily kids are so neuroplastic, right, at this age. And so that's another reason that we keep him, on the keto diet as well, is that, that's one of the best ways we can help support his brain while it heals and also just working.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we do have, he has some, long-term challenges, but he's not going to let it slow him down. So.
I love it. And I honestly will not be surprised if we, this whole thing is just a memory that you have to explain to him when he's older, because like you said, they are so neuroplastic and you're doing all the right things. I did remember, I was like thinking about where was that barbecue place I went the last time I was in Dallas. And I'm like, I got to ask her and see if this is like one of the best ones. Cause for me, it was delicious. It was, it was hard 8 I think it's in like a little bit northwest.
It is hard 8. That's pretty good barbecue. Next time, though, I'll have to meet you at 1050 barbecue. That's my all-time favorite.
Okay.
Oh, so good. Texas is so good for barbecue.
Is that in Dallas proper, or is that in
actually
Fort Worth?
It's actually in Richardson, just right north of Dallas. And then another one in Dallas. Pecan Lodge. That's in in Dallas proper. It's amazing. Life-changing brisket. I mean, really,
we love our brisket.
Awesome.
Oh man, it's too good. I know it's really bad when I'm like, we should just pick up $10.50 for dinner, and then it's like $100 later.
I know it's so expensive because you got to buy so much, and it's always like $14, $15 a pound or more. But you're like, what? It's cooked and it's good.
I know,
it's so delicious. So it is really good. But yeah, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the healthcare aspect of things too. It's funny.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because like you guys had some changes right before the diagnosis, and that's wow.
We did. So I will say, I have a background. I have actually 2 master's degrees, one in art history and one in library science. So I am no stranger to research and to having an inquiring mind that wants to know about things. And so I never really in a million years thought all of that energy would be put into medical research and cancer research and the healthcare industry, but that's kind of where everything has gotten channeled in the last couple of years. But I actually left a job. I've been at a university for about 8 years, and we had great health insurance, but I wanted something different. And so I was actually contracting, and my husband was working for a small company that didn't offer health insurance at the time. And so we were on affordable health care when Parker was diagnosed, which is like it's your worst nightmare, right? Not only were we paying, I don't know, our premium was like $1,300 a month for the 3 of us. That was just like our monthly expense. We were not accepted at the major children's hospital here in Dallas. We were not, it just did not accept our insurance.
You want the best, it's just.
Exactly. It's like, it's always, when it's somebody else's child, oh, sure. Well, they can go see so-and-so. When it's your child, you're like, what the, exactly. And so there was actually only one pediatric neurosurgeon that would take our son's case at a different hospital. And actually knowing what I know now, and I would would absolutely pick him again to do it. So it ended up working out like it was supposed to.
Great.
But the red tape, because it was an HMO plan, everything had to go back through the pediatrician's office, every blood test, every specialist. And you can imagine I had the time to deal with all of that paperwork, and it was still an absolute nightmare. I'm still fighting a bill from 2 years ago from when he was in the PICU after some claiming that we saw a doctor that we never actually saw because it was there the whole time. I mean, just crazy things. And, some of our dear friends started were really kind and started kind of a crowdfunding thing to help us pay for some of our premiums because our out-of-pocket expenses that year were astronomical because, of course, we're the worst case scenario, right? People say, oh, until you get hit, you need insurance until you get, don't need insurance until you get hit by a bus or get a brain tumor or something. Well, that was us, and that was really hard. And it made me really realize how fortunate we were that we were educated and literate and had the time to actually deal with all of this kind of red tape. Because the thing is, what about all the families that don't have that, or they're working 3 jobs just to pay their mortgage?
It's hard for them a lot of people to read some of the language. I mean, that's a reality. Yes, it's not me being crass. It's just a reality that right. that the average reading level of a lot of people is under that of, and it's being communicated to you with the expectation right. that you can stand it. And there's a big gap there.
And it was just heartbreaking. And then to top it off, you also at the same time, you have to deal with all of this paperwork and all of this red tape when it's the last thing you want to deal with. And then at the same time, you're an advocate for your child. You're fighting for testing that you know that they need to have done. And they're pushing back against that. So for example, I wanted to have Parker's tumor tested, genetically tested. There's a great company called Foundation One Testing because with pediatric brain tumors, there is some new research coming out with what are called BRAF inhibitor drugs. They're currently in clinical trials. And I knew that if we could kind of get the genetic makeup of his tumor, it would only open up options for us down the road should he need more intervention. And luckily, we were lucky that he had enough tumor left over from the surgery to get tested. But the thing was, and our oncologist told us, they were like, your insurance is not going to want to cover this. And I'm like, well, let's submit it. And of course not, right? Well, and I was like, well, let's submit it and see what happens, because
better ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, they won't even cover a food tolerance test. So it's it's so ridiculous.
And it was really, and I can't tell you how happy I am that I did it because we found out that his tumor has a type of variant called BRAF 1549KIA fusion. And the thing is that knowing that there are specific inhibitor drugs, which are not chemo drugs that are currently in clinical trials in Boston, that should he have growth like in his adolescent years, because a lot of times with puberty it kicks these tumors back on. We have answers now, like we have options, which you have options we wouldn't have known. Exactly. And the thing is, they didn't want to cover that testing, but I'm so glad I did it because I talked to Foundation One and they were great because they offered like financial assistance, but they also thanked me for pushing forward because they want more parents to fight for, to tell these insurance
they need
companies
the parents
how they need the parents to do that and to say this is important. And you know what? I haven't paid that bill yet because it's still out there. And I will continue to fight it till there's like 50 cents left on it, and it just,
I'm sure.
But that is, that's really important, but you have to be ballsy, honestly. Like there's no room to be timid when it comes to dealing with healthcare because really they don't care about you, right? You're just a number.
I know. So I need to step it up with that because I'm like always like not wanting to deal with confrontation and you have to do it. You have to fight. You have to fight with them.
You give me enough espresso and I'll do anything.
I love it.
So that and then my husband actually was able to get a different job and the one he still has right now, and we have really good health insurance for the first time in years, and it's such a relief, to be honest. And but it's one of the reasons I started that Instagram account, and I actually I already got the domain to start a blog because I feel like we are so lucky. Like we are the lucky ones, right? And sharing like the opportunity opportunity to come on here and share Parker's story and our story as a family. Like we have, we still have our child. We have our health. We have brains, we have the opportunity to share this message. That's very powerful. And honestly, that's what drives me getting up in the morning, because so many families don't have those things, and it's heartbreaking.
And it's also so important for people to hear your story and stories like yours, and, even like parents of epileptic children, because the truth is that for the most part, you're not going to hear about diet when it comes to these conditions, and it plays such an important role.
Well, and just being, and so much of it happens just kind of like word of mouth, right? I heard about it from another mom. I've had parents, a couple moms from Brazil, from all over the US, reach out to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm terrified to start this. Can I do this?" Because you think I have all these other things going on when I've got these terrible conditions, right? And these what can I do? And they're so afraid to start. And I just want to tell them, you can do it. Like, you can start. It doesn't have to be complicated. Like, it really doesn't have to be complicated. And just, I think giving people, not that they need it, but you kind of give them permission to do it. Yeah. And sometimes that's all that it really takes.
Sometimes they just
and that social validation too, like that you're doing it and other people are doing it. That's proven to make it easier for people to make a decision, especially when it's such a, like, to them in their minds, it's such a like crucial decision. Like, well, should I take sugar out of the diet? I mean, God forbid they need that. And you're just, obviously you're just like over here like, well, no, they don't. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that I still have some ongoing battles with family members too, but I'm such a hard, when they come over to the house, I'm just like, no, I'm like, you can't bring bread. Like, bread is his kryptonite. Like, I don't know. He must know he comes from a long line of carboholics because like he
wants to reach for it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to reach for it. And like, I'm like, I don't think so, bud. And it's funny, but I have to continually remind people like, nope, he doesn't eat bread. He doesn't eat this. But I also provide goodies for him going out into those other situations too. And that's the thing is, and most times like it's the adults that make a big deal about it.
Oh my gosh.
It's not even the kids. It's not. I mean, we've had some with the older kids. I've had some experiences where my older one has been kind of pressured to eat Oreos.
Right.
When he didn't want to, and then they were like, "What? Your mom doesn't let you?" And he's like, "No, she lets me. I just don't want to." So that was very satisfying. I was like, "Yeah, great answer."
Right.
So is Parker in like is he still home with you, or is he like in yeah, but I mean, he could be in school, or is he in like a VPK type thing, or you still have him home?
Yeah, we had him home, honestly, just immune system wise, super compromised. I did actually go back to work this summer part-time just because, those nagging medical bills from 2016 are still there. So he right now is 3 days a week at a preschool that's within walking distance of our house, which is great. Now he does, he is the only kid that packs his lunch and that's okay. And actually his teachers have been really great about it because, this is a school that, provides quote lunch. Like I dropped him off this morning and I could see the morning snack. First of all, they feed these kids all the time too. I'm like, he doesn't eat morning snack when he's at my house. It's just
they don't eat snack. It's like the constant, it's like chronic grazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, constant grazing. But I saw because he got to school a little bit later this morning and I could see morning snack quote was already laid out and it was like giant muffins. And I'm like, good God, it just was unbelievable. And giant pitchers of probably skim milk, right? And I was just like, all right, bud, well, what do you want to pick from your lunch for your morning snack? You know what I mean? And he like busts out moon cheese. Like,
love it. Gotta love it.
And the thing is that like, I pack things that he loves. And that's the thing is, I will say that in a pinch, those Quest cookies have been very helpful this fall.
I'm sure.
He wanted to do like cookies with Santa and all of that. And I just actually gave his teacher like a pack of them. And I'm like, listen, whenever you guys do something special, you can let him have one of these.
Out. Right.
Just pull these out. No big deal.
That's the most important thing. Just keep, and they're willing to work with you, just remaining in contact, and they have to know. And just most teachers, one of our really good friends, her daughter's in school, and she's like super strict keto. And I mean, they do these, like, the treat things happen like all the time. Like there's always something, but it's like at least once a week. She's like, gotta make cookies tonight. I'm like, oh gosh, there's always someone's birthday or some like event where they're like having some type of treat. But like at this point, the teacher knows, and like she'll like try to either bring her something that she knows she can have, or just let mom know so that you can send something so that your kid doesn't feel left out.
Half the time, we know that if people try the keto stuff, they're gonna love it. But then at the same time, it's so expensive that we're like, I'm not gonna feed everybody with that expensive stuff. Like,
sorry, guys,
if they want to eat their cheap stuff, I'm like,
you can eat your cheap stuff.
Yeah.
I absolutely. I'm like, what things can I buy at bulk? I do a lot of shopping at Costco, and that's the other thing is like, Costco's it doesn't have to be. Oh man, it does not have to be expensive to eat this way. And when you keep it simple, it's not expensive. And I think that's.
Exactly. And just like finding
anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And Costco's huge for us too. And they're always like switching things out and putting great things there. You could always get like good, like nuts. They have the moon cheese there now.
Yeah. I know. I saw moon cheese. I was so pumped. We like wisps too.
Yes. They just brought to our Costco. I'm so happy. They just brought the Simple Mills or almond flour crackers, which are huge because my kids love those crackers and they're so expensive.
They are so expensive. We love those too. Luckily Parker can do those and still, stay in ketosis. Unfortunately, my husband likes them too much because he's not a sweets guy at all. It's totally the snacks that get him, So he's like,
Danny, I see him grabbing. Yeah, I saw Danny grabbing the crackers and I'm like, you better not eat my kids' snacks.
I just had like 2 crackers. I
know, but when those crackers are like $5 a box, I'm like, get away from the crackers.
I'm like, I'm having 2 crackers right now. She's like, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, you left that bag open. I'm gonna take 2 crackers right now.
I'll tell you the hardest thing is that Parker's school is nut free, which like
really
puts
so hard.
With us. We deal with that too.
Man.
It's really hard.
I want to be like, almonds are not peanuts, And then
that is so hard.
Me, like, that goes for a coconut too. I'm like, it does not go for coconut flour. So like, that's been really frustrating. So I've had to get more creative than I would have liked, and that's the hardest part is like packing food. Cause honestly, when he's home, during the day, my mom or my babysitter, like they know we have go-to pull out stuff for him. Super easy. I mean, and this is, as I said, this is a kid who loves eggs. I mean, I'm happy with that.
It's so easy. Yeah, you're right. The packing lunch is hard too. And Desmond's steam co-op is also nut free, which when you're keto cuts out like 90% of things. You're like, I know. So he'll go with like bacon and like
I know. And then the rebel in me is like, are they going to actually know that that's almond flour in there? And then I have to be a rule follower with that. It really stinks.
I know. And it is. It's like for some of these kids with allergies, I guess they can't even have coconut. And I'm like, man, you can't even have a coconut flour.
Well, and it's so interesting too, because, obviously I really believe like your kids don't have health issues like Parker does. And obviously Drew doesn't have health issues like his brother does. But I think, there's so many kids though that can really benefit by eating this way. I mean, kids with behavior issues I wish more parents would be open to just removing the junk, and I get it. People are busy and it's hard, especially being a working parent to food prep. But you know what? It's hard to eat a regular diet and food prep too. So it's kind of like choose your hard,
Oh, I totally agree. And that's why I tell people like, not all kids have to be strict keto. Yes. If there's like, if there's epilepsy, if there's brain tumors, I absolutely say 100% suggest strict keto diets for them. But even just getting rid of the junk, like do paleo, just low carb paleo. You don't even have to worry about carbs because they're going to find your kid. Don't even worry about it. Like don't even bother planning that in because it's going to find your child. Make protein.
Exactly.
Kids love cheeseburgers. A lot of kids like eggs. Just like find what they like. Bacon. It's just, and it has to be a family affair though. I think that's the most important thing. Like most of the parents aren't eating this way either. So it's like, you can't tell your kids to eat healthy if you're not eating healthy.
Exactly. Like, don't look. And I remember that because we started him so young. And as I said, it was about 6 weeks after he started. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hide food from him. Like that is just so wrong on so many levels. And that's when I was like, you know what? We're just going to cut it out. And I will say, my husband and I, if we really feel like not, eating a non-keto meal, we'll save it for a date night, because you know what? We'll go someplace and try something. And most of the time it's just trying some little thing. It's not like going out on, because then honestly, when you've been eating this way for a long time and you eat a bunch of carbs, you feel like crap the next day, so.
Yeah. 100%. Well, we're getting a little bit long on time, but I wanted to just give you the opportunity. Number one, any like bullet points that you can say to someone, listen, if this happens to you, these are the things that you should be looking for. And then of course, we'd love for you to share all your social media handles. And of course, if that site that you're talking about
we'll put that all in the show notes too.
Yeah. If it's live or even if not live, just please share it.
So the number one thing I would suggest doing, if you, your child, or a loved one, a parent, anybody that you care about is diagnosed with cancer, the number one book I would have them read is called Tripping Over the Truth by Travis Christofferson.
Over and over and over. I've never read it, but I mean, everybody that knows about cancer recommends it.
Oh my God, it's absolutely life-changing. And I guess for me, one of the things it does is it demystifies cancer. And that's incredibly important, because you kind of remove this emotional component from it and you understand the science of how cancer functions and why the ketogenic diet is so efficacious. Number one book, hands down, recommend reading. From there's a couple other great books. One is called Keto for Cancer, just practical tips. But especially if you are going into radiation, especially with radiation, you want to be in a fasted state, number one. They know that it's much more effective that way. If you have a solid brain tumor, the keto diet is one of the best adjunct therapies. I like to use that term too, adjunct therapies. They are complementary therapies to the frontline treatments of chemotherapy and radiation. They're not cure-alls, right? But they are really good at supporting healthy brain and kind of weakening those cancer cells. So I would absolutely do that. I would reach out and find some social support with other like-minded parents if you're dealing with a childhood cancer situation. As I said, Mac's Love Project is wonderful. I know the Charlie Foundation also has really great resources for kids with epilepsy, but finding that one other parent that you can call or text at 2:00 in the morning absolutely helped me through some of the really dark times or through all the insecurities I had when we first started. There is so much research coming out. The other thing is make sure that you visualize yourself in the driver's seat of your journey. You are not a passenger. Your doctor is not the one driving it. You are the one driving it. Your opinion matters. Your voice matters. Number one. I've got a lot more to say on that, but that's really where I'd start. That's what I did. I delved into the research because I had to demystify it so that I could understand it better and kind of remove its power over me.
Yeah. Wow. That's so great. That's such good advice.
I think that last part, man, I mean, actually they were all good, but like being in the driver's seat, realizing that nothing is happening to you. You are in control and, you have a say. And then of course, being assertive when because I can imagine even you had doubts and fears when people, they want to shut you down quickly. And I understand because I'm sure there's off the wall ideas that are being, spread to them all the time. And they're like, all right, let's bring it back to reality here. If you truly believe in what you want to do and the course you want to take, and you have good evidence like you did, then, be assertive.
And I also love that
it wasn't
the information that is so important. Like take your doctor these studies, have them read. Very possible.
Know your audience. Know your audience. And that's the thing is you're not, sending them some bogus website to go to. You're like, here's an annotated bibliography of everything I'd like you to look at. And then just leave it and walk away. And that thing is, my heart was pounding out of my chest when I did that. I mean, don't think that I wasn't nervous or anxious, but I also had this driving force where I knew no one is going to advocate for my child like I will. It's not that they don't care, but ultimately no one will care like I do. Exactly. So that's kind of it. I will say one exciting thing. I think you said this is going to come out in January, but at the end of January, I'm actually going to the Metabolic Health Summit in Los Angeles.
I'm going to be there. I got to buy my tickets.
Awesome.
So I will definitely meet you in person.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. I told my husband, I was like, listen, this summer I was like, it's so nerdy, but I really care about this. And it's just like, I'm really excited to see some of the speakers and and fangirl over some people. I'm really excited. So I'm going to have a mom's weekend away.
You're in Dallas, so what about KetoCon is in Austin? When is?
Yeah, I know. Yep, I'm going to go to that too. So I'm excited to start kind of trying to get our story out in a more cohesive way. You kind enough to mention I do. I started with an Instagram account, Keto for My Kid, and actually this should be Jan 1. Should be going live with www.ketoformykid.com.
The number 4, right?
Yes, the number 4, exactly. So Keto, the number 4, my kid, and want to kind of see where it goes from there. I've got kind of big dreams of how I want to get our message out, and as you guys know, it takes time to do that hustle and to figure how that's going to work and still be your authentic self at home and be a parent and still pay the bills on time too. So
we love that, and definitely let us know how we can support you in that way.
Absolutely.
We would love to just, this is one way we're going to get this story out there. And just any other way we can support you, you just let us know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. And Danny, can't wait to meet you in January.
Likewise. And I just want to say, I'm going to round it out by saying, Adrianna, thank you for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys.